Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. Of course, I'm your host, Matthew Zator, as always, joined in by my co-hosts, Peter Baracchini and Devin Little. Guys, we're right in the, well, hockey hasn't started officially yet, but we have tournaments to talk about. We've been watching some. It's bad stream online, but hockey's hockey. So we've got some hockey to talk about. So that's going to be fun.
Beggars can't be choosers.
Even if you're watching the wrong game, something. It's still good.
Well, thanks for watching another Prospect Corner here. We're on to episode 3 of our second season here and getting into it. So, like I said, today we're going to talk about some tournaments, these prospect tournaments that have gotten started in various places around the States, Canada, and we're going to talk about 2 in particular. A couple that have been staples for the last few years or for a long time. I know Traverse City I'm not sure when it started, but it's been a staple in the September calendar for a long time. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the Young Stars Classic, which came back after 2 years in BC here and in Penticton. So that's it hasn't been around for a couple of years, but it's fun to have that back as well. So. But before we get started, this show is, of course, brought to you by the Morning Skate newsletter. It's a great newsletter that comes every 3 days a week right now. It will be 5 once the regular season gets started, but lots of news, funnies, quizzes, lots of fun stuff you get in your inbox every morning. Grab your coffee and read that because it's some great stuff that our team at the Hockey Writers does here. So description, there's a link in the description below. You can just put your email in, you'll get it every morning there. And I also want to mention one other new thing we're doing is the Quick Fire with the Hockey Writers, a YouTube show that we're starting. We've got a couple episodes out there right now. Try to get it a little bit more during the season. So check that out. You're gonna have a little bit of a taste of that. We're gonna have a quick fire segment at the end of this episode. And this will be quick fire. I know we always do quick fire, but it's never that fast. This time it's gonna be a little quicker. All right. But check that out. We have writers, just a panel of different writers coming on and just answer some quick fire questions about hot topics and stuff like that. So check that out on the YouTube channel and you'll have fun. It's very short videos for that.
Tune in and watch Matt torture us.
Yeah, they don't know the question. So that's a little bit they have to go off the top of their head. So it's fun. I know on the grind line, if you've watched the grind line, they're starting to do that now. And I'm getting a bit of the taste of that whenever I'm It's fun. It's fun. All right. Well, let's get started and talk about those tournaments, those prospect tournaments that we've got going on. And start with Traverse City because we got, Peter, Devin, both cover teams that are part of that tournament. So we'll start with you, Devin, the Detroit Red Wings. Give us some prospects that have kind of stood out in that tournament so far. I know it's like really early. These guys are still kind of baking off the rust, but who has stood out to you?
Well, how long you got? Because there's a few names. But I will start with the player that I mentioned on yesterday's grind line because I feel like I need to mention him on this show. Cross Hannes was really impressive in yesterday's game against the Blue Jackets. He had 2 assists. And both of those assists were primary assists that led directly to the goal. It wasn't, he passed to a guy, then the guy did some crazy stuff and he scored. The goal doesn't happen without those assists. He spotted the open lane, fed both goal scorers puck, and they had they were in prime position to score. They did. This is a kid who, in his D+1 year, mind you, it was the wonky COVID year that affected everybody. He did not look that impressive. And that was, he was a 2nd round pick in the 2020 draft. He kind of just didn't live up to it at all in his D+1. And then last year with kind of a return to normal, right, in the WHL with the Portland Winterhawks, he was right back to form. He had many assists. I think he had like 92 points. I don't have it in front of me right now, but he was back to form. And then this game yesterday against the Blue Jackets, he looked like a player who's ready to become pro. Moving on from Hannes, 2 other players I want to mention. One is Amadeus Lombardi, and the other one is Elmer Soderblom. They are skating on a line together, and it looks like they're establishing some chemistry together. I wouldn't have necessarily thought to put them together, but they're creating chances with each other. They've been at least a handful of 2-on-1s that they both have had. I know right before we started recording, Lombardi set up Soderblom for a goal that put the Wings up 1-0. So not only are they establishing chemistry, they're making it work. Soderblom is he's set to start his first season in North America this year. Really excited to see what he does, assumingly in the AHL, but he might get some games in the NHL. And then Lombardi, besides his awesome first name, pick in this year's draft, and he's already kind of making a name for himself. You know, he's not just a cool name; he's going to make stuff happen on the ice, and he's, like I said, establishing chemistry with one of the more exciting prospects in Detroit's pool. So I could go on and on. There's a lot of other guys that are worth mentioning, but those three have already kind of popped out in my eyes, and I'm really excited to see what they do 2 days from now against Peter's Maple Leafs.
Well, there you go. Yeah, well, I was going to say, I love the name. I think I've said that a few times. But yeah, he's, those two are top prospects. Well, I know Soderblom definitely is. Lombardi's kind of work his way up to that, and hopefully for the Red Wings' sake, he does become something. But it's great seeing them showcase themselves already really early on in this tournament. So very short tournament. I know it's only a few games, but
yeah,
you get to see these guys early, and they get a step, kind of a step ahead of other guys going to training camp, which is always great for that. All right, Peter, let's talk about the Maple Leafs in Traverse City. What prospects are kind of standing out to you so far?
Looking forward to that original 6 prospect edition. So that's going to be a fun one. I'm going to start off with Alex Steeves. This is a player that missed the tournament last year, or played in first 10, 15 minutes, missed the rest of the tournament because of an injury. And then he comes back better than ever, and he's, scores 46 points in 58 games with the Toronto Marlies. That is just absolutely impressive for a rookie. And for him to do it in all sorts of situations, power play, penalty kill, it was really great. And to see him this season, I think he seems to have taken another step further. He's got another gear in his game. I know last year he was built on speed, the quality hands, the patience, the awareness that he has. It was more of the same, but a little bit more. And he seemed to have a bit more control, although, a few turnovers here and there, but the pace that he's playing at, I didn't think he would have that, extra speed to his game, but he's just flying out there, making things happen nonstop and being aggressive on the forecheck. I know the Maple Leafs could use some of that mentality and that ability to get in hard to the corners, battle for the pucks, and dig them out. Steeves has been doing that, and he's been doing that very well. And that top line of Fraser Minton, Nick Robertson, and Steeves, obviously standing out. They make stuff happen nonstop. And Steeves is basically one of the workhorses on that line, and he's just been absolutely phenomenal for me. And I think he's a player that's, kind of a bold prediction that can make the Maple Leafs roster. I know AHL is more likely, but he has that mindset and what the Maple Leafs are looking for. And if he has a good rest of the tournament, training camp, I think he's going to catch the Maple Leafs coaching staff's eyes and be like, hey, he's too good for the AHL. We're going to give him more time up here. The other one is Nick Abruzzese. Obviously, same situation, over a point per game last year with Harvard, captained them, comes over 9 games with the Maple Leafs, obviously Toronto Marley bound, but he's been absolutely phenomenal with his playmaking and puck possession. It's just absolutely phenomenal what he was doing. He had in the game against the Dallas Stars, he had a nice dipsy doodle dangle, and then he passes it over to Semyon Dargar-Chintsev for an easy tap and goal. And then he scores a goal falling down top corner, which seemed like on a bad angle against the St. Louis Blues. So he's doing it all right now, and he's got great awareness, great hands. The speed is on display nonstop, and he's also driving to the middle of the ice, something that really, drives home with the Maple Leafs mentality of getting those high danger chances. So the fact that he's having that quality start right now, obviously more likely leaning towards the start with the Marlies and then maybe get called up, kind of what happened last season, if he continues to impress. But I've been loving him so far during the rookie tournament as well.
Yeah, those are 2 great names. I mean, I know Abruzzese is a guy we've talked about a few times on this show and on Maple Leafs Lounge. So I think he can be really good as a 3rd, 4th liner eventually. Yeah. And it's good that those, Steeves as well being, standing out. He could potentially, like you said, take some, take a spot on the 3rd and 4th line too with the Maple Leafs, even though it doesn't seem like there's a lot of room there. But you never know. In training camp, you have a good. It depends on the team, though. I mean, some teams they're like, well, you're going down to the AHL. That's how it goes. But if he forces their hand, they trade a guy, they waive guys. You never know. So those two are going to be interesting to watch throughout training camp for sure. Okay, for the Canucks, I only have one game to kind of base this off because the tournament started yesterday. So when we're recording, that is, and they played against the Calgary Flames. It was 0-0 until the third period. It was very good hockey, but but some goals started happening. Arshdeep Bains scored the first one with a good drive to the net, and he was a guy that I kind of highlighted in the game preview just beforehand. And he's going to be good in the AHL, I think, this year. And I've already talked about him quite a bit on this show. He won the WHL scoring title, and from Surrey, BC, who like really close to Vancouver. And it's great to see him. Him talking about putting on the jersey, and being in his parents were there in the building too. So that was awesome for him to score a goal. And even though it was a prospect tournament, didn't mean much. It wasn't his first NHL goal, it wasn't his first pro goal, but it's always fun to see guys like that score goals. Had a lot of adversity, undrafted in both the WHL and the NHL. So, for him to be even at this point is great to see. And he was buzzing all game long, hitting and on the top line as well. So playing with Linus Karlsson, who's another Canucks prospect I'm really excited to see this year. And that whole line stood out throughout the game. And Chase Waters, who's another, he's not a prospect, but had a really good season last year. And I believe he was just on an AHL contract. He may have been on an AHL contract. I'm not sure 100%, but he did play over there, and really good game too. But Bains and Karlsson are two guys that really stood out during the game, and I was happy to see that. And another guy was Danila Klimovic, who was, again, all over the ice. I think I heard his name the most throughout the game. He was hitting, he was getting involved, in scrums and stuff like that too, which is not usually his game. And also some great passes from behind the net that guys just missed on. And so I'm really excited to see all these guys in the AHL this year. And but they all stood out, and that's great. I'm hoping that they'll stand out a bit more in the goal scoring in the next few games. But it was great to see them. All right, let's finish this discussion off with some play. There's not only these three teams in these tournaments. There's a few others. So we'll start with you, Peter, on this. What other prospects have kind of stood out that are not playing for the Maple Leafs? Because, whatever you've seen from the other teams.
Mm-hmm. Well, fortunate enough for me, I managed to see a bit of the Columbus-St. Louis game because of the feed was not correct with the Maple Leafs and Stars, but I'll get to that game later on. But I really liked what I saw from Jordan Dumais. Really highly offensive and highly skilled player taken later in the draft. Undersized, but man, does he have a knack for scoring goals. And he scored two fantastic early goals in that game against the St. Louis Blues, and just looked absolutely dynamite out there. And obviously the Maple Leafs haven't played them yet, but when they do, I expect him to have another big game and be a standout performer against them, because he's been very, very quick, very underrated prospect in last year's draft. And the Columbus Blue Jackets did a great job scouting him and drafting him. So he looked great. I'm pretty sure the Maple Leafs are going to have the same scouting report and being like, hey, watch out for this guy. He's going to do a lot of damage. Now, going over to that Maple Leaf Stars game, it seems kind of like the easy answer, but it's kind of hard not to notice what Logan Stankoven is doing. Literally, obviously, he took advantage of a bad turnover from Nick Robertson, and he just goes in all alone, makes a move, and then he gets his own rebound and scores a fantastic goal. I believe at that point, it was the 2-1 goal in the first period. And how he felt at a second round, I'm still scratching my head, because this was a first round talent. I know Matt was talking about that. I know we were discussing about that nonstop. The fact that the Dallas Stars got him in the 40s, they're just like absolutely salivating at the idea right now that they got a first round talent scoring goals like that. And even seeing him even before this rookie tournament, seeing what he did at the World Juniors, you'd expect him to have a really strong season no matter where he's going to be. So from the World Juniors to the rookie tournament to wherever he's going to be in the future, he's just going to be absolutely dynamic. And he was fully on display and even generating a whole lot of chances, passing plays, just absolutely quick and playing with pace. It was absolutely a joy to see more of what he can do, especially against, players not just, his age, but also a little bit older that are like, over their 20s as well. Players still eyeing and battling for spots. So the fact that he was able to hold his own was still great to see.
Yeah, well, everyone knows who's watched this show. We love Logan Stankoven. So
sorry if that was the easy answer, but
no, he deserves to be mentioned.
It's the honest answer.
Yeah.
So I'm making a bold prediction right now. I'm going to say he's going to get at least 9 games at the beginning. I don't know if it's bold, but he's going to play at least the 9. I actually anticipate a bit. He may actually play for the Stars this year. He just looks like he's ready.
That's the bold. That's the bold.
That's a bold prediction. Mm-hmm. He'll play a full season this year, but named full. I mean, he was half captain at with Kamloops Blazers this past year, but he's been named the only captain now.
Mm-hmm.
And Memorial Cup. I'm sure. I mean, I know he's not going to say no to playing the NHL all year, but
yeah,
I'm sure he wants to do the Memorial Cup as well. So. We'll see what happens with him, but it's gonna be exciting to watch him around training camp as well in preseason. Because if you want to watch some Dallas Stars preseason games, watch Logan Stanko and just do that.
Yep, must watch hockey.
Right. Must watch, that's for sure. All right, Devin, what have you seen from the tournament from the other teams that you kind of want to highlight?
Yeah, I'm going to be focusing mostly on Columbus with this one because I watched the whole game yesterday between them and Detroit, and that was a game that had a lot of talent on the ice. The Red Wings had a defense that we've talked about before. That you're talking about Vincent, talking about Albert Johansson, you're talking about Emil Viro. Like there's a lot of talent on that blue line. And then over on Columbus, their top defensive pairing was David Juracek and Denton Matejchuk. They're top 2 picks from this past draft. But out of all those, and there's other players I didn't mention, out of all those players that, are legitimate prospects and could make a difference for their team starting this season, one player stood out the most. And, I kind of point to and go, all right, that's the NHL player on the ice right now. And that was Kent Johnson. Kent Johnson, to put it simply, he looked like the type of player that you pick at 5th overall. He was making things happen pretty much at will whenever he was on the ice. Obviously, you have 4 lines. That top line with Kent Johnson, Kirill Marchenko, and I don't remember the third person. That was the line that was giving Detroit fits all game long. Detroit won that game 5-2. And if that first line wasn't there and Kent Johnson wasn't doing what he was doing, probably would have won it like 6-0. Talking about Johansson and Edvinsson and others on that line, Kent Johnson was giving them fits. He made things happen by himself. He, like I said, he looked like the NHL player on the ice. So if you're in a fantasy league and you want to find maybe kind of a sly, sneaky little ad late in your draft, I would pump up. I'm here to pump up Kent Johnson's tires a little bit. You might want to invest in him because he looks like he's ready to play in Columbus, and he looks like he's ready to do some damage too.
Over under on how many Michigans he scores.
Let's see. I guess the real question is who does it more, him or Zegras?
There you go.
I'm sure he's going to do it at least once.
You got it, right?
You can bet that. You can bet.
Got to make the attempt.
All right. Well, I mean, it's fun watching these guys. Once the Canucks kind of bolster their prospect pool a bit more, it's going to be more exciting because the Canucks were missing quite a few guys in their one because, like Aidan McDonough's in the NCAA, Karamaki wasn't in it as well. So, some of the top prospects aren't there, but for some of the guys, it's fun to see. And for all the other talent, it just highlights what type of talent we're going to get coming up. So for me, I'll do this quickly because we've talked about this guy on this show last episode we did. It was Dustin Wolf. And he had a heck of a game that, they lost 3-0, but it was 0-0 for a long time. And the Canucks were the better team. They had a lot of chances. Wolf made some great saves, some great plays that he intercepted a pass from behind the net before it got to the front. So a very good awareness there too. And You can see why he's the top goaltending prospect for the Flames, and why I named him third on that list. So he was showcasing what he can do, and there's a reason why he did so well last year in the AHL. So I'm anticipating him to be in the NHL conversation pretty soon, because he's got some talent. And for a 7th round pick, geez, I mean, he doesn't look like one, that's for sure. Okay, well, that's the prospect tournaments. We'll talk a bit more in the next episode as well, because there's a few games left. There could be some other performances we want to talk about. So we'll briefly kind of touch on the finish of that next episode, because it'll all be over. And then we'll be talking about training camps and what prospects are doing well there, and then preseason. So it's going to be fun. We'll keep that discussion going. Well, let's get to some stuff that a new segment we're going to start doing in the next few weeks, a little bit of a series. We're going to go through the divisions and highlight some prospects. May not be the high-end guys that we've talked about a lot, but we want to kind of highlight some guys that may be not known as well as a lot of the guys that we've talked about at length in the top 100 and stuff like that. So let's start with the Metropolitan division. I just kind of randomly did this. I wasn't really thinking about which one we were going to start with, but I start with the far left on Hockey Reference. So Metro Division is the one. So we're going to start with the Carolina Hurricanes. And Peter, I assigned you this one. What do you think of a prospect that you kind of want to highlight from the Carolina Hurricanes prospect pool that you want to watch this year?
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from the easy answers. Scott Morrow, Ville Koivunen, Alexi Heimel-Salmi. I'm going to say Ronan Seeley. I really enjoyed what he was able to do for Team Canada at the World Juniors. Very impactful player, 4 assists in 7 games. But, his production has increased every single year with the Everett Silvertips. And chances are he's probably not going to be there. He's probably going to be eyeing an AHL spot. So for him to get more pro experience to try and, more like try and develop that two-way game that he's so well known for, to try and go up against a stiffer competition, I think it's going to go well for him. He has that knack for like getting into the lanes, blocking up plays, just being, not necessarily a pest, but a thorn in player size, especially in the corners, and trying to apply pressure. He does that so well, and everything he does, he's just extremely confident. I think that's going to carry over from the WHL to the AHL. Obviously, big, massive step for his learning curve, but I think he's going to thrive. And I think he's going to be great for the Carolina Hurricanes, because he fits that mold of a typical two-way shutdown mobile defender who's just an all-around great skill set. And I think he's going to do very well for them this year.
Yeah, he was really good for Team Canada. It was a guy that I didn't really know a lot about until that tournament. And he's definitely put himself on the map a bit. And like I said, it's not the big names on the Carolina Hurricanes pool, but that's what we want to do. We want to kind of focus on a few of the guys that aren't as well known, and give you some not educating you, but giving you more information about these guys, because take a look. If you're a Carolina Hurricanes fan, or just a fan of prospects in general, definitely keep an eye on Ronan Seeley, because I think I agree. I think he's going to be interesting player to watch in the future for the Hurricanes, who they actually have a pretty good prospect pool going. So Seeley's just part of that. So we'll keep an eye on him, and probably maybe even talk about him a bit more throughout the year. So we'll keep tabs on these guys and do a bit of tracking on them as well. All right, Devin, you got the New York Rangers. What do you want to highlight from that team? And you can't say Brendan Othman, because we talk about him way too much, even though he's awesome. So New York Rangers, what do you have as a guy that we should be watching throughout this season?
Yeah, I just want to say real quick that the Carolina Hurricanes are doing it right, because they are a powerhouse in the Eastern Conference, but they're also, like you said, have a real good prospect pool. That's how you build a sustainable winner. So kudos to Carolina. But let's talk about the Rangers. I want to quickly give a shout out to a name that has been talked about plenty, and that's Zach Jones. I do think he's gonna have kind of a breakout season this year. There's kind of an opening on that left side of the defense, and I think if all goes well for him, he's going to grab it and be the next young guy on that blue line. But let's not talk anymore about Zach Jones. Let's talk about a winger who is maybe not the biggest dude ever. He's actually built a lot like me. But he's played in 2 World Juniors, and he's off to his junior year at Providence College. I'm, of course, talking about Brett Berard. He's a winger, left winger. This past World Junior that just happened, he only had a goal in 5 games, and that's coming after the previous World Junior where he had 5 points in 7 games. So I think it's safe to say he didn't have the tournament that he was maybe thinking he was going to have. And so I think going into his junior year, he's going to be he's got a little bit of a fire under him. Maybe he wants to kind of reprove himself, so to speak. In this past season, his sophomore year with Providence College, he had 38 points in 36 games. Not too bad for a 5'9" winger. This is a kid who I think he just kind of recognizes plays and opportunities when he sees them, and he does a good job of acting on them. If he has a shooting lane, he'll shoot. If he has a passing lane, he passes. He doesn't overthink things, I don't think. And that can be one of the hardest things for a prospect to learn, is to not overthink things. And I think that he doesn't do that. So he's already on track to be a solid pro. I think that this is a player that if he has a strong enough season in the NCAA this year, he might go pro, and he might end up spending some time in the AHL to conclude the season. But we'll see. We'll see. I think, we talk about Othman, like you said, you talk about him a lot. He's kind of like, if you're going to talk about a Rangers prospect, that's probably who you're going to talk about. But I do think that Berard has made a name for himself already, considering he's represented the United States twice at the World Juniors, and he's done well for himself at the collegiate level. I think that he could be kind of a sneaky name that comes up in the next 2 or 3 years that ends up really pushing for a spot in the NHL. And, talking about how the Hurricanes are, doing it right, I think that the Rangers are kind of building something sustainable too. They've got their settled core now as Zibanejad, Kreider, and Panarin. But, you've got the Lafrenaires, you've got the Kakos, you've got Othmans, you've got Shesterkin, and guys like Berard, that can come up and maybe steal a spot in the coming years. That's how you build something sustainable. So I know I've got my eyes on Brett Berard this year, and I think you should too.
Yeah, well, I've always loved Brett Berard. I know I can't remember if I wrote his prospect profile back in the draft. I believe I did. And he's such a good player. I think he's going to be a guy that's going, I agree. I think he's going to be a guy that you're going to be wanting to keep an eye on for the Rangers in the future, because he may not be that high end, top line, top 6 guy, but he's going to be a guy that will provide some offense in the middle 6, that type of thing. So keep an eye on Berard for sure. All right. Well, I've got the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they don't have a lot of big names. Like we said, their prospect pool's not the strongest, but I'm not going to talk about Owen Pickering, because we've talked about quite a bit about him in the past because of the draft. So I'm going to focus on another guy that you may have forgotten. I don't know. If you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, you probably haven't, but this is Tristan Broz, or Broz. I believe it's Broz, but he's a guy he's going to be moving colleges. And this is one thing that, maybe a red flag. In his case, I don't think it is. He started at his hometown, University of Minnesota. Didn't have the best season, 6 goals, 11 points, in 36 games, but he had a bit of a struggle there. But he's moving to the University of Denver, who won the NCAA championship this past year. So going to a winning environment and something that's going to help his development. And, just looking at his game, I think he has a really good chance of being an NHLer in the future. But, moving college is not ideal. You'd want to kind of keep with one most of the time. But, you're moving to a winning program that's, and I believe is it Carter Major was University of Denver as well, right? Yep. So, this program is used to winning. They just won. So it was a struggle. Like I read up on him, and in an interview, he was saying that it was a struggle this past season with Minnesota, and he thinks it's better for his development, not just as a player, but as a person, to move to a different school and grow as a person and live on his own and doing stuff like that. So, and help out, I think with the university being in a program like that, he's really happy to go in there. So keep an eye out for Broz because, like I say, this is a guy that I think still has a lot of skill, a lot of stuff to give, and moving colleges, we'll see how he does in Denver, but I think he still has a bright future in the NHL. All right, let's go to the Washington Capitals, Peter, and talk about this is another system that's not the strongest, but they got some prospects to watch out for. So who are you highlighting for Capitals?
Again, as much as I love to talk about Ryan Chesley, I am not going to talk about Ryan Chesley because I've done so many times before, especially with the draft talk in last season. But I am going to talk about another defenseman. And during the 2021 draft, I was torn between who was going to be my favorite defenseman in the second round, Evan Naus or Vincent Iorio. Evan Naus slightly got the edge, but I am still a big fan of Vincent Iorio because, again, he's kind of follows in the same pattern as Braden Schneider. Maybe not as physical as a defender, but still has the offensive movement, the mobility, the ability to carry the puck in transition, to be very deceptive with his movements overall, and like with his passing, his shooting, everything he does, it just catches opponents off guard. And he's a very strong defender, able to get into the lanes, break plays up, strong net front presence. Very steady two-way game, but again, a lot more mobility from him. And, 44 points in 60 games with Brandon last season, very productive season. I'm just curious to see where his development is going to go because he's got a lot of potential as, kind of that second pairing kind of defender. And obviously, when you see a right shot defender with his skill set, you want to take advantage of that. And the fact that they have him right now in their grasp after they drafted him, it's a really great sign. So because of his overall skill set, his two-way game, his composure, I really liked him in 2021, and I'm highlighting him right now for the Capitals because they still got another steady, solid defender.
Yeah, that's a guy that was in talks when JT Miller was involved in, think he was going to go to the Capitals, and that was a guy that
trade talks,
kind of focusing on as being in the return. So, definitely keep an eye on him for the future for the Capitals for sure. All right, Devin, let's go to another New York team. I did not plan this. I just went over, but you're getting another New York team. So the New York Islanders. So who are you looking at for them?
Well, I'll start by saying that trying to find prospects to highlight from the Islanders that aren't the ones that we talk about all the time is kind of a task because
it's difficult.
Their pool's not exactly overflowing. But let's talk about, me, I love my Swedes. So let's talk about a Swede that they took in the first round a few years ago, talking about Simon Holmstrom. This is a player who finished his first season in North America just this past season in the AHL. And he had a pretty solid year, 43 points in 68 games. I mean, that's not Jonathan Berggren's Berggren numbers or anything, but it's pretty darn good. But this is a player who I wonder about because, like I said, he was a first round pick. And I also just led by saying that this isn't a pool that's overflowing with great prospects. And when you pick players in the first round, you're usually expecting them to be great prospects. And I'm not trying to sell Holmstrom short here, but I wonder if he has the ultimate upside of living up to his draft slide. He wasn't like a top 10 guy. He was 23rd overall in 2019, but this isn't a guy that screams, I don't think he oozes potential in the same way that other guys that are picked around that range do. I am looking forward to seeing him build on the year he had in the AHL this year, because like I said, it was pretty good. I want to see him increase his numbers, increase his role, and maybe even start knocking on the door of the NHL, because at that point, then you start to really, I can't think of the word right now, but really kind of justify, where they took him. He's a player that I think can fit a role. I think that he's got NHL skills. I think he's a high IQ player. And I think that he knows how to make things happen on the ice. So I think the tools are all there, and it's just kind of a matter of, it's like a painter that has all the paint, all the tools to create this beautiful art. But at the end of the day, does he have, the skill to really create a masterpiece? So for me, I'm one. I want to see him take a big leap this year. And whether or not he does, I think it's going to, excuse the expression, but paint a clearer picture of what he is going to be as a North American hockey player.
I love that analogy. It's so good.
Perfect.
Really worked out. Yeah, well, the Islanders need all the help they can get in the prospect pool. I know Ratu obviously is a guy that we've talked about quite a bit, but other than him, they don't really have really high-end guys that you say, yes, they're going to be NHL players. Yes, they're going to be impact NHL players. So Holmstrom can become that. That's awesome. So definitely keep an eye out for him in the future, because he should be getting NHL time more consistently, like you said, and hopefully he can take a big step forward this year. All right, I've got the Columbus Blue Jackets. I'm not going to talk about Kent Johnson or Denton Matejchuk or any of those high-end guys, guys that we've talked about at length. I'm going to talk about a guy that they acquired and who is still a prospect. And this is Aidan Hreschuk, formerly the Carolina Hurricanes. In that trade for Max Domi, got him in that deal at the trade deadline. And you know what? Yeah, I think he's going to be a really good defenseman for the Blue Jackets. So they already have quite a few of these guys. But I've liked Hreschuk again. Talking about trades and stuff that the Canucks could have done. I had him highlighted as a guy getting from the Carolina Hurricanes when they were talking about JT Miller. It's like every team wanted JT Miller. But yeah, he was in that conversation. And I think I even highlighted him as a target. But this is a modern type NHL defenseman, great puck mover. He's not the biggest guy, 5'11", but let's say size doesn't really matter as much anymore. You just have to be good skater, great passer, and this guy has that. So I think he's got that modern type NHLer defenseman. I mean, he's not a right-hand shot that the Canucks needed, but he's a guy that I think could become that prototypical modern day defenseman that is just needed right now. Like you're looking at the guy that's dominating the defense in the NHL, and Cale Makar. So and he's like I think he's 5'11" or 5'10" or something like that. So you're looking at these guys. I'm not saying he's gonna be Cale Makar, but keep an eye on Hreschuk, because I think he's going to become a very good top 4 defenseman on the Columbus Blue Jackets, who already have, like I say, Denton Matejchuk already. So keep an eye on Hreschuk in the future, because I think you're going to be hearing his name quite a bit. Okay, Peter, we're back to you and the New Jersey Devils now. Again, they have some really high-end prospects that let's not talk about them, but who are you highlighting from the Devils?
Oh, it's so hard not to talk about Holtz, Hughes, Nemitz. I mean, come on. But, they do still have quality players following them, I'm going to talk about Chase Stillman. Obviously, wasn't a big fan of the Devils taking him 29th overall because of the talent available. Obviously, we look at Francesco Pinelli, Logan Stankoven, Atu Ratu, maybe players that may have had higher ceiling. But you know what? Stillman has, a powerful shot, great playmaking abilities, but his energy, his motor, his work ethic, his ability to just be a thorn in players' sides. The Devils have the skill already. They need players to fill out, that middle bottom 6 depth. And I think Chase Stillman is going to do a fantastic job with that. He may not put up the points, but he's going to be a real asset to the Devils lineup, obviously being complementary pieces to the skill that they have. You need that two-way ability. You need that energy. Players that need to gain momentum, Stillman's going to be that guy going into the corners, being aggressive, and just being a nightmare for the opposition, because he's just relentless in everything that he does. So I'm looking forward to see what he can do this season. Obviously, didn't have the best numbers overall. The Sudbury Wolves weren't that great. Got traded to the Peterborough Petes, where he had more production with 29 points in 35 games. So hopefully he's able to continue that this season. If he does head back to the OHL, continue his development and have another standout season. But you got to think that the Devils know what they're doing right now with the skill that they have already with their top 3 prospects, and Stillman's just going to provide great quality depth down the line.
Yeah, I believe he's Corey Stillman's son. I believe.
I believe you're right about that.
Corey Stillman is his dad. Yeah.
Yes. So Corey Stillman. So he's got some NHL pedigree as well.
Yes.
So, keep an eye on Chase. I know. I'm pretty sure we focused on him quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit. We had a profile on him at the draft. So, keep an eye on him for sure. All right, Devin, we're finishing off the Metropolitan Division with the Philadelphia Flyers. Who are you highlighting from that group that they've got a few really good high-end guys? Who do you want to kind of focus on there?
Yeah, I feel like the Flyers prospect pool is maybe a little underrated as far as the community is concerned. I'm not saying it's like fantastic or anything, but there's more people here than some people might realize. I'm gonna actually highlight two because I feel like one of them is maybe a little bit of a cop out because we did talk about him quite a bit this past month, and that would be Emil Andrae. First and foremost, for some reason in my head, I thought he was a Kings prospect. So the fact that he's a Flyers prospect, good job, Philly. You got that one right. But no, he was the captain of Team Sweden's World Junior team just this past month, and he was arguably probably most definitely their best defenseman, and that was a team that had guys like Vincent on it. So kudos to Andrae. 8 points in 7 games, not anything to scoff at. So yeah, he's a smaller guy, and I find that smaller defensemen have to be, really special to make an impact. It's I would say it's semi easier for forwards to be smaller and make things happen. You got to defense. You're expected to hold off guys. So smaller guys have to make an impact in a different way. And I think that he does. I think that he has a lot of, I think he's an underrated, kind of has underrated skill as far as defensive prospects across the league is concerned. He's also set to play the full season in the SHL. He spent this past season in what is essentially the SHL's AHL. So I'm excited to see him take the next step and kind of see how he looks, because he looked real darn good at the World Juniors. So if he looks anything like that, I think that Flyers fans will know his name real well by the end of this season. And then the other guy I want to highlight is another first rounder that maybe some people forgot about, Tyson Foerster, who is coming off of a season in the AHL, and he's kind of had a down year. Maybe not the year that people were expecting, especially considering he was drafted in the first round. 9 games, only 3 points. And then he had 13 games with the Barrie Colts, 11 points. So not like anything earth shattering, but he put up points. This is a player that I think needs to have a good year this year. He's going to play in the AHL. Kind of for the same reasons as I talked about with Holmstrom, where you want to see a first round pick look like a first round pick, right? And I think that he's a player, I know in that draft, he was a player that I had my eyes on. I thought he could have been maybe even a top 15 guy. He knows how to score. He knows how to use his size. He knows how to, create pressure in the O zone. And I think that he's a player that as he kind of gets more confidence under him and gets more experience playing at the pro level, I think that he is going to show why he was a first round pick in the 2020 draft. I just think he needs more reps, basically, is what I'm saying. And I'm excited to see if that is the case. And if he, gets that confidence, if he does live up to the hype, because I do think there's a lot of talent in this player. And I think that he could be a part of their future core, but he's got to show it. And I think he's got to start showing it this season in the AHL.
Yeah, well, I think I've heard Tyson Foerster's name come up in trade talk as well. Flyers sphere. So it's, what? I think he may be on the short leash coming up on how long they're going to keep him in the organization. But you know what? If he has to start doing some stuff to even to get away from that to being traded. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with him. But I think he still has the potential to be a good player in the NHL. So yeah, keep an eye on Tyson Foerster for sure. All right, this one's a quick question, and this one is opened up to the top prospects. So these are not just the underrated guys or the guys we don't know a lot about. So and this one's going to be tough because there's a lot of good prospects in this division. But which one do you think will have the biggest season points wise, doesn't have to be in the NHL, in wherever they are playing. So we'll start with you, Peter, on that.
I just want to say sorry because I hit my mic twice. So this is going to be tough. This is probably the toughest question to date because there's so many good prospects that come out of this division.
Yeah.
Again, easy answer is going to be Kent Johnson, but I'm going to go a different direction, and I'm actually going to say Luke Hughes. Literally because of the fact that I believe he had 17 goals last season. And when I was doing his write-up for the top 100, the farm rankings, he was first among freshman defensemen, but third overall in freshman goals. That is something that is very difficult, especially with, freshman players, because you don't know what to expect, especially that season. Going into the sophomore season, still on the University of Michigan, we know how great that team is based on their scouting and everything like that. They're just going to be absolutely dominant. And what we saw from Luke Hughes at the World Juniors is going to carry over to this season, and he's just going to tear it up again. Obviously, you can't deny the talent that they have up front, but he's going to be leading the offense once again from the back end. And no Owen Power this time around, so you can expect him to try and get more ice time, more minutes, and all that. So he's going to get big. He's going to have a big season, and with those more minutes, is going to be more points, possibly more goals, more plays, and more excitement for the New Jersey Devils and their fan base, because he's the real deal right now. And if he's able to just even, obviously we saw improvements in his defensive game. If he's able to maintain that, again, they're not just deadly up front, but they're going to be very lethal from the back end as well.
Well, they said future pairing, Simon Nemec and Luke Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
Either a pairing or just one, and first two pairings, my gosh. But no, probably top pairing because Hughes is a left. So yeah, there you go. So, and Nemec is a right-hand shot. So pretty good pairing to come up pretty soon. So keep an eye on Luke Hughes. I think he's probably gonna have a really good season too. All right, Devin, who are you seeing as the guy going to have the biggest season from this division, prospect-wise?
Yeah, kind of to echo what Peter said, it seems like Kent Johnson is maybe the obvious answer here, and I kind of just want to rest my case at that and call it good, because I really think Kent Johnson's going to have a good year, especially now that Columbus signed Johnny Gaudreau, and you can kind of be hit under there and learn from Gaudreau. And there's a lot going on there that I think Kent Johnson's going to have a good year. Have I said that Kent Johnson's going to have a good year? You should pick him up. But one player that I think is worth highlighting, that I think could actually surprise and maybe even become like a legitimate NHL player this year, especially because Nicholas Backstrom, we don't know his status, going forward for the Washington Capitals, is Hendrix Lapierre.
Mm-hmm.
That's a player that I think he has all the tools to make things happen at the NHL, offensively at least. I'm not saying he's going to have a Kent Johnson-esque year. In fact, I would tell you, no, he is not going to. But I do think he's going to have a big year, whether that's in the AHL or wherever. And I think that kind of in the same way that Peter mentioned Luke Hughes, where I think he's, he had a really good season last year, and he's only going to go up. I think Lapierre is kind of in the same boat. 51 points in 40 games in the queue last year, and then 11 points in the playoffs. So it's not anything to rub your nose at. And he already has 6 games of NHL experience in front of him, so he kind of knows what lies ahead of him. And I don't know. I just really liked that pick for the Capitals when it was made, because that is a team that is going to have to transition soon. To keep getting older. And like I said, Backstrom's injury situation right now, it's tough. So they're going to need players like Connor McMichael, like Hendrix Lapierre, Ivan Miroshnichenko to develop and take the team over here in the next 2 or 3 years, because as great as Alex Ovechkin is, time's running out on that core, that group. And if they're going to remain relevant in the post Ovechkin years, these guys have to step up. So I'm excited to see what Lapierre can do this year, assuming he plays in the AHL this year.
Yeah, it's a good call. Lapierre, he had a really good start to the season there. I thought you were going to say Connor McMichael, but he's not a prospect anymore.
Yeah. Still could have said him. He's still young.
Still young. I'm going to. I mean, those are two great picks for sure. I'm going to go with. My gosh, Ken Johnson is just so easy to pick too. But I'll pick someone else. I'll pick Brennan Hoffman. I said we were talking about too much, but he has to be talked about here.
You're welcome.
I think he's going to make the Rangers out of training camp and actually be playing for them. So, I don't know, depending on where he is, he may not have a massive season in the NHL, but if he does get sent back to, I believe he's still junior eligible. Wherever he's playing, he's gonna have a really good season. I think he's be in the NHL at least for the 9 games, but we'll see. I think he's gonna have a big year regardless of where he does play. All right, let's get to the fun stuff and the quick fire, which you guys have not prepared for. So let's have some fun with this one, and I am not going to answer them because I know it, because I know the questions. Okay, we'll start with you, Devin, on this one.
Oh, geez.
Which prospect do you see getting traded from the team you cover? So the Detroit Red Wings. Who do you see as someone getting traded this season?
Do I get to say my answer from yesterday's show?
Yeah.
I'll start with Jared McIsaac because same reasons. He's got a big year in front of him, and I think that the Red Wings have a lot of left-handed D prospects, and they got to make decisions sooner or later. And I think that he is one that unless he blows some doors off the hinges this year, I think that he's going to be an easy one to move on from and maybe move to address a need elsewhere. Another one, because I think that one's a little too easy, and I do want to give a shout out to Logan Horn, who mentioned William Wallander last night. I do think that he kind of fits the bill. I am going to say, I think that there is a crazy universe out there where Sebastian Cossa could be dealt. Ooh. And it would have to be a big deal, right? You're not moving your goalie of the future unless you're getting something huge. And I would even go as far as to say that you have to be getting like a good young goalie that could be playing right now. Like you'd have to be doing like a Cossa for Carter Hart type of thing, and that wouldn't even happen. But I think that I think the answer was who's going to happen this year. I don't think Cossa's getting traded this year, but I will just plant my flag in the ground and say that I think Cossa is not as untouchable as a guy like Simon Edvinsson is, and they were drafted in the same year. So I'll rest my case at that.
There you go. This is the only one that you can break the rules of more than one sentence or two sentences.
Oops.
All right, Peter. I didn't make that so one or two sentences. All right, Peter, which prospect do you see getting traded from the Maple Leafs this year?
Depending on the season that he has, I think it's good. I think, and also Dubas has said that he's willing to trade blue chip prospects, but he hasn't yet, and he's been saying that for 2 or 3 seasons right now. Still hasn't happened, but if there is one prospect to move, I think it's still going to be Nick Robertson, depending on the season that he has. The time is now for him to try and crack a roster and earn a top 6 spot. Obviously it's not going to be bad considering he's still young, still learning, but now with the chance to take a spot in the top 6 and run away with it, the time is now. And if he doesn't, I think the Maple Leafs may have to try and consider other options. And if it means giving him a fresh start, sending him somewhere else, if he can't take a spot when this is the year to do it. And I know I'm probably going to get a lot of backlash because I'm not fully giving up on Nick Robertson. It's just, it is what it is. This is his time right now. This is what he's been training hard for.
Yep. I can see that for sure. All right, Peter, we're starting with you on this one. We've talked about this before, so it may be easy for you.
Okay.
Will Connor Bedard play the entire season in Regina or be traded?
Ooh.
That's I mean, obviously, if he does get traded, obviously the Regina Pats didn't have a great season last year, and Connor Bedard got 100 points on a bad Regina Pats team.
Yeah.
So why not just go with the rebuild right now, trade him, get a handful of other like talent picks, whatever you want, and let him thrive and let him win a WHL championship. I say maybe not to start the season, but I think when it comes closer to the trade deadlines, when that comes around, kind of what we saw with John Tavares at the World Juniors that 1 year where he gets traded afterwards, I think it may happen something afterwards so it's not a distraction for Connor Bedard.
All right. Devin, what do you think? Traded? Will Connor Bedard be traded, or is he playing the entire season in Regina?
You know, I'm glad that you started with Peter on this one, because the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this isn't as crazy a thought as I thought. I do think he could be traded, and I will say you're not just going to get one handful of assets for him. You're probably going to get two handfuls. And the way I look at it, Caden Gooley, great prospect. He was traded. Mason McTavish, maybe one of the best prospects in the drafted prospects in the game right now. He was traded. So I agree with Peter. If they get off to a bad start, I could see Bedard get traded.
All right. So we'll come back to that, see if that happens. All right. We're starting. Who did I start with last? I'll start with you, Devin, on this one.
Yep.
Who will score more goals? Kent Johnson or Mason McTavish?
McTavish. I think Johnson's more of a setup guy. Not to say he won't score goals, but
all right. Peter, what do you think?
That depends on how many Michigans he's going to do this season. But no, I'm going to say McTavish too. McTavish has that NHL shot. And although Kent Johnson was shooting the puck a heck of a lot more than at the World Junior, so maybe he's trying to work on that. So I'm going to say McTavish, but don't count Johnson out just yet, because he may try to keep it close. And if he works on his accuracy, oh man, lethal.
Yeah. Okay. Peter, starting with you. Agree or disagree? Jesper Wallstedt will end up with more starts than Stuart Skinner.
Ooh. These are good, Matt.
Considering that they want to try and lower Jack Campbell's workload, I don't think that's going to happen, because the Edmonton Oilers have relied heavily on their starters in the past few seasons. No matter who's in net, they've always relied heavily on their starter, and I think it's just going to compile on Jack Campbell. I think Stuart Skinner is going to get, a few more chances in net, but I'm going to say Jesper Wallstedt gets more starts than Stuart Skinner. Wallstedt has established himself in the SHL as a top tier goalie. Top wild prospect. Skinner's still going to be the backup, and I think the Edmonton Oilers are still going to play Jack Campbell at least maybe 60 plus games.
So what you're saying is that Wallstedt's going to be in Minnesota then for a bit of the season.
Oh, I did not say that.
All right, Devin, what do you think?
This is definitely a
this
good
is the
question.
toughest one. This is the toughest one. Yeah.
I'm gonna say Skinner starts more than Wallstedt, and it's pretty much because Skinner is expected to start the season in the NHL, whereas Wallstedt's expected to start in the AHL. I do think Wallstedt makes his way up at some point, but I think that head start puts Skinner ahead, basically.
All right. So we'll find out. That may take a bit of time to fully answer this question, but I don't know. It depends if Skinner can actually take a step being a starter, because the Wallstedt definitely will be.
It also depends too on if Minnesota just wants Wallstedt to be the starter in the AHL. Like if they decided that's what they want for his development.
That's why I think it's going to be interesting to see if they want to give him more starts and they want to try and get him going and try to match those starts that he was able to get in the SHL. I think it's going to work out well for him. And if that's the case, if he wants to be a starter, you give him every opportunity to succeed.
I do think that he would learn a lot, being a backup to Marc-Andre Fleury, but it just, what's more important, that learning or the reps, basically.
Yeah, because sitting on the bench doesn't do very well for goaltenders for sure. All right, final question, and this is not bad. All right, we'll start with you, Devin. Which prospect that played in the Traverse City tournament will make the biggest impact after training camp?
Kent Johnson.
That's an easy one. See, that's what I mean.
Kent Johnson, and I will be a homer and say Simon Edvinsson second.
All right, Peter, what do you think?
It's hard not to say Kent Johnson. It really is. But I'm going to say Maverick Bourque. I'm going to say him because of the fact that, he's gotten some looks at the AHL. Obviously, he dominated the QMJHL, captaining, I believe, the Shawinigan Cataracts to that QMJHL championship. He has that leadership, that mindset, that work ethic and drive. I think he may have an impact, but then again, it's still hard not to pick Kent Johnson,
I know who you're picking,
I'm
Matt.
probably going to say Kent Johnson too. I want to say Logan Stankoven.
Stankoven, well. That's
yeah. All right. Well, that was fun. That
was
for you.
Do that. I'm gonna have to put myself on unless you guys pick questions next time too. But
don't tap me with a good time.
Then I won't know the questions. You're asking me. All right. Let's get to our prospects of the week segment here, as we always do on the show. And we'll start with you, Peter. Who is your prospect of the week?
Yeah, I'm going to say Philip Kral from the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I rarely pick Toronto Maple Leaf prospects. So if you got an issue with that, I'm sorry. Obviously they don't have a lot of depth on defense. Obviously their top defenseman is Topi Niemela. He didn't join the tournament because he's already started his season in Finland. But I really enjoy what he was able to do, especially with the pairing with William Villeneuve. I thought Kral had that very steady two-way game, making right pinches, making great plays, great breakout passes, getting into the lanes and, breaking everything up and just providing great one-on-one coverage in front of the nets. I really thought that he was very steady in those first two games. Obviously, maybe not so much the St. Louis one because no one really played well and because the power play was 0 for 5, 0 for 6, and that was just abysmal. But Kral showed a lot of, potential, and he showed a lot of promise in his developing game of what he can do as a two-way defender. Obviously, he may not put up the points, but if he's able to be in that effective shutdown role, possibly in the near future, I think he's got a lot of promise, and I really liked what I saw from him so far in the two games.
Yeah, so that's a good call out for sure. All right, Devin, who you got as a prospect of the week?
Well, I'd love to just keep the train rolling and say Kent Johnson, but I'm not going to. But I will stick with the Blue Jackets.
Kent Johnson episode.
Yes.
Kent Johnson episode when it wasn't supposed to be Kent Johnson.
Hey, we've had those episodes where it's Wyatt Johnston. Like it happens.
Hey, there you go.
But yeah, I'm going to talk about Johnson's line mate at the tournament right now. That would be Kirill Marchenko. And the reason why I had to pick him is because there was a specific play yesterday where he was he wasn't in alone. He was the only Blue Jacket in the ozone, and he was boxed in by 4 Red Wings. He had 2 in front of him and 2 behind him, and he still managed to deke in between the 2 defenders in front of him, and he got off a real quality looking opportunity that I don't remember if it was Kosa or the other guy, but I don't know. Either way, the goalie made a stop, but he had to work for the save, and it was a beautiful play, and that just kind of is a microcosm of the skill that Kirill Marchenko has. And this is a player that, besides Kent Johnson, the Blue Jackets are expecting to push for a roster spot this year. He might not get it out of the gates. He might have to start in the AHL, but he's going to be a player that I think when all is said and done in this season, he'll be wearing a Blue Jackets uniform. He has made a name for himself overseas, playing over in Russia. He's, like I said, he's got skill up the wazoo. He can make silky moves, he can score, and he can make things happen in the ozone. He's not a player that I think is going to be as heavily counted on to really make a difference in the same way that Kent Johnson is, but he's going to be a player that can play with a skill guy like Kent Johnson and just put the puck in the back of the net. And while the Blue Jackets already have a guy like that in Patty Laine, Marchenko's another guy who I think is just going to, inject even more skill into that Blue Jackets lineup. If we like to talk about the Ducks and the Stars as teams that are like, holy cow, look up for them in 3 years. The Columbus Blue Jackets, low key, look out for them in 3 years, because we're talking about their forward prospects and the forwards they have on the team already. But we kind of briefly touched on their defense too. They've got a lot of guys coming up on that end too. Look out for the Columbus Blue Jackets, because holy cow, they're building something to be scared of in the future.
Yeah, well, like Cole Sillinger coming second season, he's only like 19, 20 now.
Yep. He was the youngest player in the league last year.
Yeah, and he had a really good season. And what can he do for an encore? So, yeah, lots of guys. And Marchenko, I know Blue Jackets fans have been clamoring to see him in the NHL for a while now. So he used to be their top prospect. Not anymore. They've got a few other guys. Kent Johnson being one of them. We should do a count how many times his name has come up in this episode.
Take a shot every time you hear the
right
name.
Up here. Kent Johnson counter right here.
We'll do a Kent Johnson counter. All right. My prospect of the week is a Canucks prospect. And this is a guy that I didn't really see a lot of last season, but I saw them in the game, the prospect in the Young Stars yesterday, that Kirill Kudryavtsev. And he was really good in the game. Very low-key defenseman. Very, I don't know how many passes he broke up with his long stick and long reach. He broke up a lot of passes, and very good, coming back on defense, and great at transition the puck. And he's a guy that, like I say, I didn't really see a lot of last season, but if that's what he's going to be at the NHL level, I think Canucks have got a good one. Another late round pick. I know it's very early to say, but he showed really well last in the game. And the biggest thing was his anticipation and breaking up. Like I say, I don't know how many passes he broke up, but he was really good. So that's my prospect of the week. A sixth round pick of the Canucks, I believe it was a sixth round pick of this past draft. So again, not a right hand shot like they need, but I think he's still going to be a really good defenseman. He's a guy to watch in the next few seasons to see what he can do. I think he's still playing the OHL. So keep an eye on Kudryavtsev for sure. I know how to say his name now. I know the first time when I was talking about him, it took me a while. But keep an eye on him. Okay, well, there's another episode. Prospect Corner. We went through a bunch of stuff today. And thanks, Peter. Thanks, Devin, for coming on the show again. And joining us, and of course everyone for joining us. As we thank you for coming and taking time out of your day. I know it's long episodes, but thanks for watching and listening every week. We'll keep going, and we'll keep shooting them out to you. So next week we'll go to a new division and talk about some more prospects, and do our little bit of a recap of the prospect turns will be over, and training camps will be beginning. So hockey's just around the corner. I know there's some already games being played in Europe. Prospects are already playing. So we can probably talk a bit about that. And of course, all the OHL, WHL, all the junior leagues will be starting up soon, and hockey will be off and running. It's going to be fun. So thanks for joining us on another episode of Prospect Corner. Make sure you're checking out the Morning Skate newsletter at morningskate.io. Again, lots of great content there every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right now. Going into the regular season, it'll be 5 days a week. And check out our quick fire episodes as well. And you got a taste of it there as we did on Prospect Corner here. And that'll be a regular segment on our show as well. So thanks for joining us, and make sure you're checking us out again next week.